Dharma, um, and we did lesson 8 yesterday. So today we will proceed with lesson 9. But before I do, let's hear the recapping of lesson 8. Haribol.
Haribol, Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam to all. Um, yes, we are going to through Sri Jaiva Dharma, and the first 17 lessons they do explain about Nitya versus Namitik Dharma of the Jiva. In that, we saw yesterday His Great Charachandra Prabhuji explained about Nitya Dharma, the race and caste, the internal religion and the differences of caste. It was explained. So, as we can see, Devidas Vidyaratna is a teacher, fellow, and he had a belief that only Brahmanas could understand the spiritual goal of life. He was in that notion, and so he came with a discussion and debate in the assembly. That was a rigorous one. So the great debate it ensured between Krishna Chidamani and Vaishnav Das Babaji. So mutually agreed to conduct the debate in Bengal. So everyone could understand that Devidas Vidyaratna was the real cause of this trouble, in which even Brahmanas could not go for Madhukari also uh, overnight. So we can see that this particular debate it continued so much. So Larry Mashe openly said that this his son Devi is too proud, whose mind became agitated when he saw the Vaishnavas associating with the saintly Kazi. So it was Devidas' notion that only the Brahmanas could understand the spiritual goal of life, and without first taking birth in a Brahmana family, no one can attain liberation. So he became disgusted when he heard in the conversation with Kazi and Vaishnavas that these Vaishnavas they do associate with Yavanas. So he used to respect his father, but uh, he was in question that why his father respect the Yavanas. So in that assembly, why did Vaishnav Das Babaji and Prem Das Babaji show so much of respect to Yavanas? So who do contaminate even with their touch, and one has to take the bath. So Devidas challenged the Vaishnavas for a great debate against these smart Brahmana Panditas on the topic whether a Hindu they do fall down by associating with Yavanas. Then we can see the great debate between Pandit Chudamani and the Vaishnav Das Babaji. So the few questions like is caste eternal? All the Yavanas and the Hindus they do differ in caste. Does a Hindu fall down by associating with Yavanas? So while Nyaya Shastra says that, so actually with logic, there are about 28 points with respect to which uh, the truth they were studied from Smriti Shastras. And the caste is eternal. The true difference is not among a human being born differently, although the real differences are among species. So caste distinction is not eternal. The human race is one. Differences of language, country, caste are only imaginary differences. Then the second question was, aren't human beings different based on birth? If not, is the difference between a Hindu and a Yavana based on external? So it is according to the past karma and deeds, the soul accepts a higher or a lower birth with guna and karmas. So accordingly, they perform different kinds of work. Since the Yavanas are not among the four Varnas, they are the outcasts. Then how can a Yavana be a Vaishnava? And how a pious Vaishnava associate with Yavana? Whosoever engages in pure devotional service is a Vaishnava. While being the outcast, the Yavanas may not be qualified to perform the caste-based duties. They certainly are not barred from devotional service. Then by right act, one becomes pure in heart, which leads to attain transcendental knowledge. Among them, there are the personalists, while others are Vaishnavas. In the beginning of spiritual life, one must perform pious deeds to become a Vaishnava. However, Muslims are not qualified to perform pious deeds. So, how can they be engaged in devotional service? So, even outcasts may engage in devotional service. Yes, in ISKCON, we do see everywhere. So, it is from all caste and creed. Srila Prabhupada have brought us under one umbrella. So, those who take shelter in me, though they be the of a lower birth, such as women, Vaishyas, or Shudras, may approach the supreme destination. Either a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, or outcast, a person is most exalted if he or she engages herself in devotional service. O king, a dog eater who is devoted to Lord Vishnu is better than a Brahmana, is like a smart Brahmana. A sannyasi who is not devoted to Lord Vishnu is also inferior to such Chandalas. So, a debate continued further between Pandit Chudamani and Vaishnav Das Babaji. Next question was, how can the defect that is attained by birth be removed by any means other than another birth? So the defect of low birth comes from our prarabdha karmas. When one chants the holy names, those karmic reactions are thrown far away. So just by merely the holy name of Lord, His Lordship, even the Chandala from lower caste gets freed from all material contamination, it is being said. The next question was, how come then outcast who chants the holy name is not qualified to perform yajnas and other rituals? The various activities of devotional service are immeasurably better than the performance of Vedic yajnas. It was answered. Next question was, what kind of conclusion is that? That a person not qualified for an ordinary thing can be qualified for an exalted thing. What is the clear proof for that? So it has been answered. There are two kinds of human activities, material and spiritual. Even after becoming qualified, one may not necessarily perform certain material activities. All Yavana may become purified to become a genuine Brahmana, but by material conception, he or she may not marry a Brahmana's daughter. So, next, why not? What is wrong with that? So it is not proper to violate social customs. So we saw it in much greater length also yesterday. They who are proud of their material activities do not break social customs, and they who are qualified to make spiritual advancement do not break social custom either. Even Prabhuji explained example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So how he used to follow the social customs, and under that reign, he is to um, follow in the amongst the devotees also. So how does one become qualified to perform material activities? How does one become qualified to perform devotional service? So answer was that one's nature, birth, and other things qualify one to engage in material activities. Faith in the truth qualifies to perform devotional service. So there are Pandit Chudamani's question on what are the natures needed to perform different kinds of duties. So, as per Varnashram system, there are Varnas like Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and outcast. So, Brahmana are explained with the 10 characteristics like peaceful, austere, satisfied, honesty, compassion, truthfulness, devotion to Supreme Personality of Godhead, tolerance, purity, and self control. Kshatriya, who do possess power and leadership. So we can see a person's natural inclinations and abilities to learn different skills are to some extent determined by birth manifesting from childhood. However, there are many factors other than birth. One should examine his nature and qualities. Among Vaishya, we can see the five characteristics that is eagerness to become wealthy, business, charity, etc., religiousness. Then among Shudras, service to Brahmanas, cows, and demigods. This is the important characteristic. Being satisfied with whatever is one's situation in life. Amongst those, we can find women and other lower castes. So, an outcast, like we can see Yavanas, they do exhibit lust and anger, untruthful, and they are towards material sense gratification. So, in detail, in the discussion, what did you mean when you said faith in the truth? So, as we know, the faith or Shraddha that is required for devotional service, when a person has in his heart the faith and trust in Supreme Personality of Godhead, then it is being called as faith. So, a materialistic person with an impure heart has a false conception of personality of Godhead. He is selfish, proud, and eager for fame. Then his faith is not sincere. So, saintly person characterize sincere faith that follows the scriptural teachings. The kind of sincere faith makes one qualified to engage in devotional service. So, in devotional service, faith is very important. So, people, next question was people may possess the faith that follows the scriptural teachings, but they're not necessarily all exalted souls. Are such persons qualified to engage the devotional service? It was answered like a person's nature makes him qualified to perform specific duties, but it does not necessarily qualify him to engage in devotional service. So here a few verses there we are explaining about the faith in devotional service that develops. So, having awakened faith in the narrations of my glories, being disgusted with all material activities, knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, sense enjoyment, but devotee should remain happy and worship me as per the text and verses which were explained. So, even though he is sometimes engaged in sense enjoyment, Lord is saying, my devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, and he repents with such activities. So, when an intelligent person engages constantly in worshipping me through loving devotional service, as described by the Shastras by me, his heart becomes firmly situated in me. Thus, all material desires within the heart are destroyed, and the knot in the heart is pierced. Um, that Granthi, yesterday also we learned the shloka from first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. All misgivings are cut to pieces, and the chain of fruitive actions is terminated when I am seen as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, uh, everything that can be achieved by fruitive activities, penances, knowledge, detachment, mystic yoga, charity, religious duties, and by other means which are attained by devotees through loving service unto me. If somehow or other my devotee desires promotion to heaven or liberation or residence in my abode, so he easily achieves such benediction. So here devotee can get in return. So as Lord explains, what if I have no respect for Srimad Bhagavatam? Then it was debate two. If you do not respect Srimad Bhagavatam, then you insult all the other scriptures. One should have faith in the Shastras like Srimad Bhagavatam. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he engages in devotional service, because he is properly situated in his determination, he quickly becomes righteous, loves peace, and O son of Kunti. So declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. So devotee renounces from material activities and follows spiritual path. So there are three paths: Karma Kanda, Dana Kanda, and Bhakti Yoga. And amongst best is Bhakti Yoga, which includes Sadhu Sang, and due to which the faith in holy name and Krishna Katha it gets fructified. So here, Lord is saying that in my scripture, Brahminical birth, chanting Gayatri, and performing other duties will gradually attain transcendental knowledge and eventually liberation. So, how does faith arise? I see that Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam teach that faith leads to devotional service. And so, uh, here the soul, they do and must attain the faith. So scriptures include about the faith, varnashram, and sadhu sang, and how the conviction of the heart, and the six divisions of surrender, and uh, to avoid unfavorable things, and faith as a trust, which has been explained in some Vedic injunctions with spiritual master. And faith is a specific activity performed in the heart, and it leads to engagement in devotional service for spiritual engagement. And next part of this particular lesson, it will be continued further by his great charity. Hare Krishna. So it was very difficult, but I
No,
tried.
I know. It's a lot of material. Thank you very much, Nityasaki Mataji. So beautifully done. So let me share my screen. So everybody can see my screen. Haribo?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, you can see.
So far in lesson 8, we saw that Pandit Chudamani is asking the questions, some critical questions, and Vaishnadas Babaji has been answering questions. So first 13 questions, there are a total of 29 questions. The first 13 that we covered in lesson 8. So now question 14 through 29, and that I have listed right here in this particular slide. Clearly, of course, we are not going to read each of this question, but we will. I will show you each of the question along with the answers that Babaji provides. Okay, in the interest of time. So now I'm telling you, it's a very, very comprehensive, uh, massive amount of information is there, and we have only so much limited time. So I'd been working on these PowerPoints till the very last moment. Actually, I barely sent you these PowerPoints just about 15 minutes or 20 minutes ago before the class began. So really, I've been working like anything. So this is lesson 9, and in this slide, what you see, question 14 through 17, that being answered by Babaji. So question number 14, devotional. So what I'm doing it, I'm paraphrasing the questions from the book actually, sort of tightening it and using a minimum number of words. So please forgive me for that. So Pandit Chudamani is asking, devotional service attained by sadhu sangha in turn is attained by past pious deeds that we covered already actually in lesson 8. So Chudamani is saying that yes, I understand that, and this is according to Narada Purana. So actually, let me show you the questions. Yeah. So the questions, question 14, that is being asked by Pandit Chudamani, since the Yavana. So remember the whole situation, the whole debate that Devidas arranged is because he was greatly disturbed. Somebody's microphone is on, please, because it really disturbs me. Please turn off the microphone. I beg you, please. Every one of you, those who are listening. Thank you. So here the Pandit is asking, since the whole situation, Devidas initiated, challenged the Vaishnavas for this debate because he was really turned off by the Vaishnavas, the way they so respectfully, so honorably received the Qazi, and he was totally against. He considered Qazi as a Yavana, Muslim. Uh, Yavana really means actually the foreigner, basically. But he is referring to Muslims particularly. So he's saying that since the Yavanas do not perform pious duties, because we already saw that it is a pious duty performed previously that creates the faith, and faith is of paramount importance for Navada Bhakti. So he's saying that I would strongly argue that how can they become qualified to engage in devotional service, that they couldn't have performed pious deeds because of their low birth. Okay. So to that question, Babaji responding, he says devotional service attained by sadhu sangha. So even those who may not have done that pious, but originally that we perform pious deeds in our previous lives is also because of the mercy of some saintly personality that we happen to meet previously. Okay, so he's saying it is really primarily it is the sadhu sangha, the association and serving the saintly personalities, which in turn is attained by past uh, pious deeds. Okay, this is according to Narada Purana. So there are two kinds of pious deeds we are talking about. One is eternal and one is temporary. So here, what I'm showing in these three boxes, the eternal pious deeds that brings sadhu sangha, and so is a paraspara. Sadhus bring allows us to perform pious deeds, and pious deeds promote sadhu sangha. So it's a cooperative phenomena. Okay? So that brings sadhu sangha and devotional service. So the individual soul, of course, constitutively is pure, eternal, and unchanging. Uh, Attraction to the Lord in devotional service is part of the soul's eternal nature, because by constitutively we are meant to serve uh, Sri Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Okay, and sadhu sangha and devotional service facilitates that process. So, in contrast to this eternal nature, what is the temporary nature? So that brings material senses gratification, and that's what Babaji is pointing out right from beginning. These impersonalists have this material motive to derive impersonal liberation. Okay, so that brings material sense gratification and impersonal liberation. It's on a material platform. The individual soul that is conditioned by the three modes of material nature, by Krishna's illusory potency, that is his temporary nature. Okay, the act of becoming liberated in itself is not really eternal. The devotional service that exists before and during and after liberation is eternal. So you see, he's pointing out, making a very clear distinction that when this secondary objective, this impersonal liberation, if that is the goal, then you don't get the benefit of primary objective. Liberation is merely a less important byproduct of their devotional service. Okay. The third point, this pious fruitive work, uh, there is karma, and this um, um, impersonal speculative that knowledge, that so-called knowledge, but that's a speculative, not rooted in the foundation of the scriptures. So that is jnana kanda. Previously it is, before it is the karma kanda. and the Ashtanga Yoga are all temporary pious deeds. Okay? And Sadhu Sangha, the association with the saintly personalities, and the devotional service that the sadhus engages in that process, are the one which is eternal, eternal pious deeds. Okay, so one has to clearly distinguish what is eternal and what is the temporary pious deeds. The performer of each of such eternal deeds, uh, uh, they are the one that attain faith, not the temporary one. Because if it is temporary, the faith cannot stabilize in the heart. Okay, now question number 15. Since the Yavanas do not perform pious duties, uh, the Pandit is arguing, I would strongly argue that how can they become qualified to engage in devotional service? Very pointed question, okay? So the answer is this. Sadhu Sangha is conversing with a pure devotee. So really, um, a devotee asks some pertinent questions in a very submissive mood, while um, because that is what in Bhagavad Gita Krishna says, that you approach a bona fide spiritual master who's himself a self-realized person. So you ask in a very submissive manner and also providing some service, then that saintly personality become pleased, and then he provides the right kind of guidance, so that is the way it works, you know so sadhu sangha is conversing with pure devotees. The devotee asks pertinent question, and why I've been encouraging all of you, uh, because that is how the knowledge gets transmitted. Okay, uh, if you don't, then uh, it just enters in one end of the year, goes out of another year. The active participation means asking questions. Okay? So chanting of the holy name in sadhu sangha are the actual activities of devotional service. Scriptures say that serving in the temple of the Lord Hari. So these are the various components of devotional service. Okay, you serve, visit the temple, if not every day, at least once a week. Provide some meaningful services in the temple, and then also observing Ekadasi. For Vaishnava, it's very important that we follow Ekadasi, okay? And so many other components are the actual activities of devotional service. And because of his past misdeeds, devotee's past misdeeds, a person may be born as a Yavana. So this Yavana is a low birth. Remember, I told you, we discussed in the lesson 8 also. The Babaji says is a low birth means not belonging to any of the four Varnas. That's why these Yavanas are outcast. And we also saw the qualities, what is their nature. Though these people are very impure, cheating propensity, and all these things that we discussed, right? So, because of his past mistakes, a person may be born as a Yavana. And because of past eternal uh, these pious deeds, he may also attain faith in devotional service. Okay, so that's how, even though they have this low birth, but because the pious deeds performed because of the sadhus, some mercy, and they become a Vaishnava, then there is no distinction. So the whole to lesson 9 is all about that. So, and then question 16, one who is born as a Yavana cannot have performed past misdeeds, past deeds, pious deeds. And therefore, how do they qualify for devotional service? Very, very good question he's asking. Okay. So the answer Babaji is saying the eternal and temporary pious deeds are independent of each other. We have to understand the distinction between the temporary and eternal past deeds, and that just shown in the previous questions answers. It was by accident that the soul first fell into the cycle of karma. Okay, the followers of karma mimamsa claim that karma has no beginning from time immemorial. Okay, but there is the root of karma. Okay, which is the individual soul's aversion to the supreme personality of Godhead. So this bad karmas that we have done is because aversion means turning our face away from Krishna. That is how we perform bad karmas. And even this fruity karma, which has, of course, according to the Vedic injunction, nonetheless, they are performed with an objective to enjoy fully in this birth, and then next birth you go to the heavenly planets and increase enjoyment uh, uh, exponentially. Uh, so question 7. So here, then you say it is possible to perform eternal pious deeds accidentally. So it's not done by intentionally, but by chance. This Yavana might have committed, might have performed pious deeds. So that is the answer, that it was by accident that the soul first the cycle of karma itself. Even karma also is by accident. The followers of karma mimamsa, actually the Sanskrit word mimamsa is inquiry, basically. So karma mimamsa claim that karma has, so this is the one actually one of the disciples of Srila Vyasadeva was the one who proposed that, has no beginning, but there is the root of karma, which is the individual soul's aversion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So yes, you cannot pinpoint when exactly that happened, but somehow or other, in some birth it happened when the person takes away his attention to the Supreme Lord, and immediately Maya takes control of him. That's where whole this vicious cycle begins. So now, questions 18 through 21 in this slide. So what is question 18? So is there no difference between a Hindu and Yavana? Are they same? The answer is there are two kinds of differences there. Okay, one is spiritual, one is spiritual kind. The other one is material. Spiritually, Hindus and the Yavanas are not very different. Only on a material platform, what we see is the difference between Hindus and Yavanas. Spiritually, they are all same because we are spirit souls, you know. So that raises question 19 and 20. Why do you speak of Vedanta? Babaji is constantly quoting references from Vedanta. So what is the material difference between the Hindus and Yavana? It's already, Babaji said there are two kinds of differences. One is eternal and one is material. So now he's harping on that. What is the material difference between the Yavana and the Hindus? Babaji's answer, in regard to material and social custom, a Yavana is untouchable. Now it is not that. But I remember when I was growing up, we were taught actually, you know, be very, very careful and avoid physical touch by such people. Now it's not that much. Now I experienced this thing when I was given that kind of instructions by my parents. So one is a Yavana is untouchable by the Hindus, and this is the social custom. neither should they associate with, nor should accept food and other things from him. And if accidentally touched by the Yavana, a Hindu should immediately take bath. And third point, why it is so, why they are untouchable. And we saw again that if you go back to my slides, where it listed what are the natures, characteristics of people in Brahmana, Vaishya, all the four varnas, and then look it up in an outcast. Um, uh, um, it is said these Yavanas, they don't take daily bath and all these things. Now we won't get into that. Okay. Now situation is quite different. It's not that bad, but we are talking about when this took place, that conversation took place. You know. So the Yavana's body is untouchable because it is attained by committing sinful acts. Some lifetime, because of the weak karmas, they received the low birth. There are various kinds of low birth, of course. Ugly look, no education, and so on like that. Okay. And what is question number 21? How can then the Hindus and Yavanas be the same spiritually? Please clearly explain. Because of the scriptural declaration, and Babaji is quoting some references, and here is one of these references. O best of the Bhrigus, the holy name of Lord Krishna delivers the chanter. O king, a person whose past pious deeds are small, not substantial, they cannot have faith in Lord Govinda. His prasada, holy name, and all of his devotee association. That is the reason problem. Question 22, 23. So you see, Pandita Chudamani is constantly keeping all his question centered around the difference between Hindus and Yavanas. Okay? Because Devidas had instructed why Vaishnava they treated this Qazi, so-called Muslim, of course, but he was a saintly personality that they didn't notice that, you know. So, question number 22: what kind of talk is this? Pandita was turned off when Babaji was giving explanation about the Yavanas and how they also can get a mercy of a sadhu, and that low birth can be taken care of, you know, and they become Vaishnavas. So, what kind of talk is this? This is just the Vaishnav fanatic dogma. You know, how can rice, dal, and curry be spiritual? So whatever is being offered to the Lord, and the remnants become Mahaprasad. So, how these are non-devotees, they cannot understand this. There is nothing that you will not claim. You keep on claiming so many things. What is the basis of that? So Maharaj is Babaji very respectfully and in a humble mood is requesting that please kindly refrain from verbally attacking the Vaishnavas because you are committing offense. In a debate only because we are engaged in debate, you and me, and you don't make personal attacks, especially to the Vaishnava, you know. And I don't want you to commit offense. Only the various arguments should be considered. You argue, of course, whatever you don't agree, okay, and that is the whole purpose of this debate. The remnants of food offered to the Lord, that becomes Mahaprasada, illuminates the way to the spiritual world. That is the door opening of the spiritual world. When we honor, partake Mahaprasadam, that purifies our very existence. It converts our material to spiritual tendencies. Same food with and without offering to the Lord, it makes so much difference, um, and drives away all that is which is material contamination. Still, you are not attracted to the spiritual things. That's so unfortunate of you. Abaj is very pointedly pointing out that, So please refrain committing such offense against a Vaishnava. I personally don't take it, Babaji says, but you are really attacking Vaishnavas in general. What is question 23? Let's change the subject. So Pandit understood that. Let's consider ordinary material things, okay? How could one behave uh, with Yavanas? What is the right kind of behavior ought to be of the Hindus toward the Yavanas? So, the answer is, if by performing eternal pious deeds, the Yavana becomes a Vaishnava. Please remember that. This Yavanas also, by taking shelter of a sadhu, uh, and they sadhus engage them in devotional service. So all the dirt because of the previous misdeeds, because that's the virtue of devotional service. It removes, nullifies prarabdha karma as well aprarabdha karma. Aprarabdha, we saw that putam and bijam, even the seed that's completely removed. So even this low birth, it is because of their some previous misdeeds they might have done, but now they are engaged in devotion service by the mercy of devotee association, so that all the causes of their low birth is nullified. So now they become a Vaishnava, even though they are Yavanas. And we will see later, one still follows the social customs and things like that. But when they are on a Vaishnava platform, then it doesn't make any sense. So Babaji is saying that, I'm quoting some scriptural references. And to save the time and space here, I'm not pointing out it, but I'm giving you the page number so you can see what is the scriptural reference. So he goes to hell who thinks in terms of his birth and caste. So once somebody is turned Vaishnava, you don't question what was his birth. In Gujarati mein kehvat છે, there's a saying in Gujaratis that when a river, you don't go for the origin of the river. The same way, so નદીનું મૂળ ન જોવાય અને સાધુનું કૂળ ન જોવાય. મૂળ means the river's beginning, okay, where it originated, where it began. In the same way, the rhyming word kuda, Muda versus kuda. Muda means root, the beginning. And sadhu's kuda, what particular lineage that he belonged to, his previous to his becoming a sadhu. You don't question that. And who thus see a Vaishnava as a Shudra, a barbarian, or an outcast, they go to hell. So be aware of that. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Lord himself said that a scholar learned in the 4 Vedas is not truly dear to me. An outcast who has become my devotee is truly dear to me. And that famous verse 930 Bhagavad Gita, one who's chanting my holy name, you don't commit any offense against that person. That's very, very harmful. To him, gifts should be given, in fact. From him, blessings should be accepted. And he should be worshipped as much as I, the Supreme Lord. So one who becomes a Vaishnava, one who becomes a devotee, he should be respected. Then you don't look, he was, before he took the devotional service, who he was, that you don't question. Otherwise, you'll be committing an offense. Okay, now this is question number 24 and the complex slide. So I'm going to break up left versus right, okay? So here, why So question, let's first look at a question. What is question 24? So here question is this: why can't a Vaishnava householder marry his daughter to a Yavana Vaishnava and vice versa? Now we discussed yesterday, right? Even though Vaishnava, you still have to follow social customs. A Vaishnava does not disregard social customs. So there are two kinds. An ordinary material understanding is there, and a spiritual understanding, advanced spiritual understanding. That's how we look at the issue. So on an ordinary material understanding, when one is born in a Yavana family, he remains a Yavana until his very death. Okay, there is a material understanding. Don't forget what is been said so far. But a material understanding is there. And indirectly, Baba is putting on you have material understanding that you look so down. Even that Muslim Qazi that we respected, and you were questioning, but that Muslim Qazi is a saintly personality. He changed holy name, he took shelter of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and you still look upon him so down like that. So that is material understanding, you know. Uh, uh, then second point on material understanding, there are 10 kinds of social rights, including marriage. So marriage, you are asking, is one of those rights. A Hindu Vaishnava has a status within the four caste, okay? Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or so on like that. And he should marry within his own caste. A Vaishnava still respect the social order, thereby accepting the assigned temporary duties. So Varnashram Dharma he observes, but on a Daivi Varnashrama, that we understand. The material understanding is like that. Okay? Now, what about this advanced spiritual understanding? When such a Yavana who engages in devotional service and remains no longer a Yavana, then he remains no longer a Yavana, you know, because he purified his low birth. Now he's become a devotee, chanting the holy name. He's become a Vaishnava. Okay? He may renounce the duties of the four caste. If association with the Yavana is not favorable for devotional service, then a faithful Yavana Vaishnava should reject that association. So that is the a golden rule, right? Anything that is favorable in devotional service, serving Krishna, that you adopt. Anything that is unfavorable, you reject. You avoid that. So that is the right kind of understanding, spiritual understanding. So indirectly saying to the Pandita that you have material understanding, then that's where you're wrong on that. Okay. So question again, why can't a Vaishnava householder marry his daughter to a Yavana Vaishnava and vice versa? So you are pointing out all this thing, Baba, the Pandit is saying that now he's become a Vaishnava, but still you don't get into this kind of social interaction. If you are a Vaishnava, you don't marry your daughter to a Yavana, and the reverse is also true. You don't accept the daughter of a Yavana and marry the daughter. What is the explanation for that? So the point is here, what is the difference between a Hindu Vaishnava who properly rejects the duties of the four caste and a Yavana Vaishnava who rejects association with Yavanas? Now this is, let's take a pause and read again. This very important point we are getting here. What is the difference between a Hindu Vaishnava who properly rejects the duties of the four class, okay, and a Yavana Vaishnava who rejects association with Yavanas? Okay. So both have rejected what is material and inferior. Spiritually, they are brothers. Again, what we are talking about, a Hindu Vaishnava, what is the contrast and similarity between a Yavana Vaishnava? Okay, a Hindu Vaishnava properly rejects the duties of the four castes because he has gone above, uh, transcend that, but still he respects. Okay, but he rejects that. So, in the same way, that who was originally Yavana, but now he come to the devotional platform, who may now reject association with other Yavanas. So both have rejected that is material and inferior. Spiritually, they are brothers. They are one and the same, no difference. Hindu Vaishnava and Yavana Vaishnava was original Yavana, but now he has come to the transcendental platform. Second point, however, this may not be true for householder Vaishnava. So again, coming to the social customs. Even though his associates and duties may not always be favorable for his advancement in devotional service, he should not renounce them prematurely. He may renounce them only when he is properly qualified. So while he's a sadhaka, he should still respect, the social customs and so on like that. That's why they don't exchange, they don't get into the social relationship like marriage and so on like that. Um, Third point, nevertheless, when his attachment to devotional service becomes very strong, he will naturally renounce his unfavorable association and duties. Very important point. Uh, Now he's quoting the reference from Srimad Bhagavatam. Understanding these virtues and faults I have described, a sincere devotee renounces all ordinary material duties and worships me alone. Such a devotee is the best of all. Another reference, of course, that's famous reference. Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam braja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender to me. So that Yavana previously was Yavana, he now took a shelter of the Lord. So all his previous misdeed, everything is totally taken care of. So he is now Yavana Vaishnava is no different anymore than a Brahmana Vaishnava. A Brahmana who became a Vaishnava now. Another reference from Srimad Bhagavatam, when a person is fully engaged in devotional service, he is favored by the Lord, who bestows his causeless mercy. At such a time, the awakened devotee give up all material activities and ritualistic performances mentioned in the Vedas. So he's not obligated, but he may do it anyway to set a right example. Okay, but when a Yavana becomes a Vaishnava, you don't see him Yavana anymore. That is the whole point of this debate, is that Babaji is pointing out that you guys are criticizing us, that we interacted with this Qazi, but now that Qazi, yes, he was a Muslim. He was born in a Muslim family, but now he's become a saintly devotee. He's chanting the holy name. He took shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay, and you still look upon him as Yavana. That is wrong of you. That low birth effect is totally nullified by taking shelter of the Supreme Lord. So you have to understand properly. Yeah, we may not socially interact, exchanging each other's daughters in marriage, uh, but that is besides the point. Okay, let's take a short break. There's so many questions, but the whole point that Pandit is harping around that on the wrong kind of uh, um, platform. And Baba just keep on correcting him. The one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Lord, what was his origin? Previously was a Yavana. He should not take into that account. But Vaishnava, sure, he would still respect the normal terms of the social order. Okay. So only in that regard, we do. But once he become a Vaishnava, we should respect that. Just like a Vaishnava, um, he is beyond, he is not obligated to form to in this Varnashram Dharma. Nonetheless, he would still not violate. He would respect that, even though he's not obligated, just to set a right example for others. So this not getting into the marital relationship is on that basis. Uh, one has to understand that. Again, this Gujarati saying, I'm going to repeat, Nadi no moor na jovaye, ne sadhu no kood na jovaye. You don't look for where from the river started. Wherever there's a river, you make use of that river's water, all these things, taking bath and so on like that. Why worrying about where from it started? It has no bearing, no significance. Same way sadhu, who he was before he became a sadhu, there is no relevance to what he is now. You know, so that Yavana, who has now become a Vaishnava, is chanting the holy name, taking shelter of the saintly personalities, and he himself become a saintly personality, then why you care who he was before? That he was a Yavana, low birth and everything, but that's been taken care of by the Lord. You know, it has no significance, no relevance to look who else. This is a direct answer to whole this debate. You know, that they were criticizing why the Vaishnavas interacted with this Kazi, but they keep on forgetting that Kazi is now a saintly personality. Yes, his body, he took birth in a Muslim family, but that drawback is no more relevance. He is a Vaishnava and he should be treated as Vaishnava. Just as we see that Babaji said, a Brahmana Vaishnava and a Yavana Vaishnava, they are like brothers. Socially, we don't interact because of the norms of the society, but that has no bearing on this aspect of it. All right. Okay. Let's move on. So now, question 25. If a Yavana becomes a sincere Vaishnava, Can you take food, drink, and other things with him now? Okay. So the answer is yes. Sannyasi Vaishnavas may take Mahaprasada with them. Householders who are materialistics may not be so inclined. Those who are on a material platform, the grahasthas, they may not do that. But a sannyasi Vaishnava do not see that. However, there is no rule forbidding one from even taking the remnants of food left by any other Vaishnavas. Indeed, one should take the remnants. So if a Yavana Vaishnava is there and a Brahmana Vaishnavas are there and a Mahaprasad is being distributed, there's nothing wrong honoring a Mahaprasada in the company of the Yavana Vaishnava, because he is now a Vaishnava. Okay. The question number 26, I'm sorry. Why then in Vaishnava temples, Yavana Vaishnavas are not allowed to touch the deities? And now Sarath Prabhu is going to tell, even today, that Jagannath temple, non-Hindus are still not permitted, even they become Vaishnavas. And that happened when Prabhupada brought all the Western devotees. They were prevented that actually. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had so didn't like that. In fact, Haridas Thakur, to my knowledge, if my reading is, if I correctly remember, he was also not permitted. But Mahaprabhu did not want to violate the rules and regulations of the temple, the Jagannath temple. It's been for hundreds of years. That's the fact, Okay, so question number 2 is why then Vaishnava temples, Yavana Vaishnavas are not allowed to touch the deities? So the answer is this: three components of answer. Threefold answer. It is an offense to call a Vaishnava born in a Yavana family a Yavana Vaishnava. You don't make distinction anymore. He is a Vaishnava. There's no different from a Brahmana Vaishnava and a Yavana Vaishnava. Simply by being a Vaishnava, he is qualified to serve Lord Krishna. Second point, if a householder Vaishnava engaged in serving the deity, the Lord, is according to the materialistics outside the caste rules of Varnashram Dharma, the Vaishnava is at fault only from the viewpoint of those eager to follow material customs. So on a material platform, this happens, not on a spiritual platform. Still, a sannyasi Vaishnava should not worship the deity, because then his status as a Brahman, as a person beyond the caste system, becomes ruined. Indeed, in his heart, he should worship Lord Krishna. So, now, this is a controversial statement. Let me read again if you missed it. What Babaji is saying, still a sannyasi Vaishnava should not worship the deity. We all know Prabhupada used to perform arati, right? My Guru Maharaj even today, he does that. And they're Vaishnava. But the explanation is this: you have to recognize the Baba Vaishnava customs and so on like that we follow in the ISKCON, the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is different than the Babaji Pranali. Remember, Babajis, they don't want to recognize them as following the Varnashram Dharma. And sannyas is part of the Varnashram Dharma. Okay. In fact, in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the sannyasis still wear Brahmana thread and they perform deity seva and everything like that. My Guru Maharaj takes, wherever he travels abroad, he has all the paraphernalia all the deities, all the Shilas he carry with him. And every day for 2 to 3 hours he perform in the morning the puja by himself. But the Babaji Pranali, the Babaji traditions, they don't want to even part of the Varnashram, so they don't want to call themselves as a sannyasi. So they don't wear Brahmana thread. They are beyond sannyasi. So they don't call themselves sannyasi at all. Um, they don't wear this saffron color dresses and things like that. So that is point we have to understand. So this statement, don't misinterpret. It applies to the Babaji Pranali. A sannyasi Vaishnava, so because Vaishnava's Babaji is a Babaji, that's why he's saying that thing. A sannyasi Vaishnava should not worship the deity, because then his status as a person beyond the caste system becomes ruined. Because Babaji Pranali are completely beyond, they have given up, they transcended the whole entire Varnashram system. They don't even call sannyasi. Instead, in his heart, so he may not physically performing deity seva, but mentally in his heart he does. Question number 27. What do you think about the Brahmanas then? Okay. Answer. By nature, these are genuine Vaishnavas who thereby ought to be the honored Brahmanas. If a Brahmana has all 12 of the Brahminical qualifications that we discussed in one of the slides that I discussed, but is not a devotee, so even a Brahmana has all the 12 kind of nature qualities are there. But if he's not a devotee and is averse to serving the lotus feet of the Lord, then he's certainly lower than a devotee. This is the Bhagavatam verse. Bhagavatam was 7th canto, 9th chapter, verse 10. He is certainly a lower than a devotee who is a dog eater, but who has dedicated everything, mind, man, vachan, karma, wealth and so on like that, to the Supreme Lord. Such a devotee is better than even a Brahmana. Why? Because the devotee can purify the whole family. One devotee born this is from Prahlad Maharaj teaching there, said that when Prahlad Maharaj was told, he was worried about his father, Hiranyakashipu, committed so many offenses against Lord Nrsimhadev. So Lord Nrsimhadev assures him that you are born in this demoniac family. You're, I think, 7 generations, I forgot exact number, 7 generations before and 7 generations afterwards, they are all purified. So don't worry about that. So such a devotee is better than even a Brahmana, because the devotee can purify the entire family. The whole lineage is changed. Whereas the so-called Brahmana, in a position of false prestige, cannot purify even himself. Bhagavatam verse. And so this is by nature, okay? But then only by birth, if you consider only by birth, then these are honored because of an ordinary social custom. And the Smarta Brahmana is considered Brahmana by birth, not by nature, by gunas. So question number 28. The Shudras are not allowed to study the Vedas. If a Shudra becomes a Vaishnava, would he not then be allowed to study the Vedas? Answer is here. Regardless of the caste in which he was born, by a spiritual consideration, a pure Vaishnava becomes a Brahmana. There are 2 parts of the Vedas describing what are the 2 parts? By ordinary rituals, and the other parts by spiritual truth. Both categories of the Brahmana are allowed to study the Vedas. So even the one who was a Shudra, but now he's become a Vaishnava, okay, then there is no distinction. You cannot make any distinction because he is no more a Shudra. He purified his low birth. Shudra is a low birth. Third point, regardless of the caste in which he was born, a pure Vaishnava is perfectly qualified to study and teach the Veda that describe the spiritual truth. So, and there are series of scriptural references are there. Okay, a wise Brahmana should study the part of the Vedas that describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they're perfectly qualified. He is the miserly person who does not solve the problems of the life as a human and who thus quits the world like the cats and dogs without understanding the science of self-realization. And that we learn from Shastra, from the Vedic scriptures. No. He is a Brahmana who does solve the problems of as a human, and he quits the world knowing the truth of the eternal Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is perfectly okay. A Brahmana who does not study the Vedas and who instead laboriously studies many other books without material things becomes at once in this life and along with the entire family a Shudra. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge. So all this is the right kind of understanding comes from the Vedic scriptures. So by all means, they ought to study. So he's again pointing out, because this Pandit is Partha Brahmana, they keep on looking the origin who he was. He was Shudra, a low birth before he became a Vaishnava, but now the Kazi is a full-fledged Vaishnava. You know, that they overlook it. They look only based on birth, not by gunas and karmas. Final question. Is your conclusion then that the part of the Vedas describing spiritual truth teaches only the Vaishnava religion and does not teach any other religion? Good question. There is only one religion, which is called eternal religion, Sanatana Dharma, or the Vaishnava religion. Now, again, those who are not Vaishnavas, they might question this point, right? But you have to understand who is Vaishnava, one who chants the holy name. So even a Christian, what they call Christian religion, or a Muslim religion, they also chant Hare Krishna, they chant Allah, Muslims, and the Christian, they chant Jehovah. But that's another name for Krishna, Vaishnavas. Lord Vishnu is like that. So one and the same meaning is same exactly. Whosoever chanting, developing love for God, there's no distinction. So there is only one religion. So whatever we say about Vaishnava religion, it equally applies to any other. So there is only one religion, Sanatana Dharma, eternal religion. Other religions are temporary, they serve as steps leading up to the Vaishnava religion. So those who are not truly Vaishnava religion, either that religion is gone, takes another religion comes into place until they follow this particular definition of a Vaishnava religion. So by the influence of time, again the reference, by the influence of time, the transcendental sound of Vedic knowledge was lost at the time of annihilation. Therefore, when the subsequent creation took place, Lord says, I spoke the Vedic knowledge to Lord Brahma because I myself am the religious principle enunciated in the Vedas. That's why Lord Brahmaji is born in the very first day that Krishna gave the the four seed verses of the Bhagavatam. All the Vedas describe the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now I will briefly describe that abode to you. The realm of the Lord Vishnu is the supreme abode. This is part of what Krishna says. Hare Krishna. So that concludes. So the bottom line, they were criticizing why the Vaishnavas honored that Muslim Qazi. The whole thing was harping about that because they were looking by birth. The Qazi who became a Vaishnava, he was not by birth. By birth, he was a Muslim. But his low birth has been purified when he took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He took shelter of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and is chanting the holy name. He's associating with the sadhus like that. So he himself became a sadhu. So there's nothing wrong that we honored him that way. The whole point boils down to that point only. Hare Krishna. Yes. It's open for discussion now.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. So with that 28 or 29th question,
Yeah.
basically, does the conversation ends or still continuing?
This debate gets over. Debate
Okay.
between this Pandita and Babaji.
Okay. So the final conclusion as given in last like a 28
Yeah.
is the really sum total of all that who is called real Vaishnava. And it's a very nice to learn, even it's for me also, like others, the Christian person, like Srila Prabhupada many times he said that you
Yeah.
follow your religion, literal spirit, like sincerely, and
Yeah.
also like a Mohammedan, they can also follow. So and that is a good. And last one, it said that other religion, they may be stepping stones coming close to the God. It's categorized the other religions, right, Prabhuji? So it is a really nice conclusion that, many times said that Sanatan Dharma or whatever we follow, it encompasses everything. Anything that gradually or slowly or whatever speed leads to the to understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that religion one should accept. Some may be slow, they may go wrong direction sometime and come back, but that is how we encompass. Whereas many other religion, their way of saying is, this is the only way you follow, otherwise there's nothing, right? So
Yes, and there's a misunderstanding. Just like
right,
Christian said, if you don't surrender yourself to Jesus, then you'll go to hell, right?
correct,
Muslims say the same thing.
yeah,
And unfortunately, in our Western religion also say the same thing. If you don't take shelter of Krishna, then life is wasted. But you have to understand there's only one God.
yes,
And in that regard, if you look at it, see at that angle, then we are all same. You do not say that you'll go to hell if you don't. So you take shelter of the Supreme Lord, He's only one, but He has many names. So you have to understand from that point of view. So there is no distinction. So there is only one Sanatan Dharma.
correct, yeah,
By that definition. Okay. So we are not saying that if you don't surrender to Krishna, you'll go to hell.
yeah,
Okay. If those devotees would say like that, then they are completely a wrong misunderstanding. Krishna, one who is the supreme. Okay. He may have a different names, Allah, Jehovah, and so on like that. So if somebody chants, Muslims, those who become saintly person, they always chant. Namaz padhte hain. They are doing same thing. Christians also. They take the message, follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, who was the messenger. Same way Muhammad Paigambar is the messenger of Allah. Allah is Krishna. That's what. But those religious fanatics, they create such distinctions with a narrow understanding of that, the concept. And here in this Jaiva Dharma, that is what we are learning here. Okay. But then you may ask many subtle differences, why in certain religion meat eating is allowed and so on like that. But if you really look at carefully, those who become saintly personality, they don't do that. Um, or some people on a social platform, they would not eat meat on some holy uh, uh, particular days. Okay, what that indicate that something is wrong meat eating, right?
Yeah.
That they would not eat meat eating on their particular holy days, like that. So so there are some differences are there, but we don't pay attention to those minor differences. Just like when Vaishnava, there's different sampradayas. So there are sampradayic differences are there, and you respect that. But the overall, the main point, you don't miss it. The main point, that is what we have to consider. Main point is what? Chanting the holy name, associated with sadhus, and develop, ultimate the goal is to develop love of God. That is what, if all the religion underlying message is exactly same, non-different, so there is only one religion, Sanatan, eternal.
Yeah, Prabhuji, just to add to that, I have a colleague, 10 years back, worked with Cooper, and he was a Muslim person. And, so we used to talk during lunchtime, all these things, and ask him 3 questions, basically, Sambandha Abhiday Prayojan. So I asked him, what is your Sambandha with Allah? And he says, he is a master, I am his servant. Exactly same thing. What is the Abhiday? Get the love of Allah. And then ask Prayojan. Whatever is given by Quran, I follow, and the Prayojan. So where is the Prayojan?
Exactly same. There's no difference. No difference.
Correct. And
No
that person
difference.
was trying to study Vedas. I said, you are studying a wrong book. You want to do, take the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. These are the books will tell you what is the, so we discuss about Sanatan Dharma or Hindu Dharma, what we talk about. You will understand. You will not understand anything from Vedas. So these people in a Toronto, they were trying to understand other religion, particularly Hindu religion, the tenets of Hindu religion. And there's a group. I'm not in touch with them for many years because I left that project. So, Babuji, attempt has been made from that religion also,
No, I would not harp on the differences. Look at the common ground. And if you consider on the common ground, all religions have the same underlying message. So focus on that. So that way, we don't get into the unnecessary arguments, and then animosity develops. Yes. Other questions, points? Thank you, Radha Vinod Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Any other points or questions?
Hare Krishna,
Yeah, Raju
Prabhu.
Prabhu. Haribol Prabhuji. Prasad Prabhuji.
Hare
Raju
Krishna.
Prabhuji is there. Yes, go ahead, Raju Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavad Pranam, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Dandavat Pranam.
Prabhu.
Yeah.
Prabhu, today class was a bit, it was going above my head. So I know that a lot of
Then I didn't do
very
a good
tricky
job.
questions.
Then I didn't do a
Prabhu.
good job.
I mean, no, not like that, Prabhu. My limited understanding, to be honest, I had to go through once again. But my only, the silly question is, the Hindu word, Srila Prabhupada did mention that it is coming from the Sindhu.
Yesterday I mentioned that.
Yes, yes, Prabhu. Then why our Bhaktivinoda Thakur in this book, why Hindu, and it is comparing everything with that one. Is there any reason, Prabhu, or is there any reason behind this Hindu word as something like that? Or could you please enlighten us?
Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur uses the word Hinduism because he's talking about these dialogues taking place between these Brahmanas and these Muslims and all these things. And they use the word Hindu, which is common word now. The Sanatan Dharma is referred to as Hindu Dharma because of so that is the reason he's using that word Hindu, only because of that reason. Because that is commonly used and you want to connect with the common people. So use a terminology, what they are familiar with it. Most
Okay.
people are not aware. If you use the word Sanatan Dharma, most people
Okay.
are not afraid. But Hinduism, everybody knows worldwide what it is.
Hmm.
That's the only reason I suspect Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur uses that.
Okay, bro. I mean, even previously also in the Bhaktivinoda Thakur's 500 years back also, this misconception of the Hindus and Muslims, all these stuffs were there, not only now. That's what we can
Yeah,
take it from this
yeah.
conversation, bro. So
And
it is
remember,
coming for a long time. Yeah.
this book was written long back in
Yes, exactly, bro.
well,
Yeah,
the end of 18th, some 19th century, beginning of the. So there's the reason he used the terminology in his when the book was written that time.
correct.
And the
Means
the
this,
Muslim rule was there everywhere.
yes, yes, bro. I mean, it is
Bengal
not
was
coming
ruled by
from this.
Muslim.
Yes, bro. I mean, it is not this casteism, Hindu Muslim fight, all this stuff. It is not coming just day or today. So it is all very long back. This is there. Though to clear that conception, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave this literature. Looks like, bro. Yeah, that is what I
So
can
look,
take.
even among Hindus, there are so much misunderstanding there among average Hindus. Average,
Yes, yes, yeah,
so much misunderstanding there, right?
yes,
And
yes,
it's very complex. Actually, Hinduism is not really, but what they say is way of life.
yes.
So many different segments, branches are there, and what we are following is according to the Vedic system. That's what it is.
Mm.
You know?
To
Okay.
add to your point, add to your point. Recently, there is a one movie came. I not seen that one. There is a fight, the Kerala story, and there another movie came very recently. Prasad Prabhu knows that one. I don't know. They're totally regarding. They are misinterpreting this Ramayana,
Exactly.
Mahabharata, all these stuffs. So many stuff are going around the world, but unfortunate.
Yeah.
Prabhu, what to do? Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Yes, Prabhu, that movie name is Adipurush. Okay, it came very
Yeah.
recently. Yeah, it was a complete
Thank you, Prabhu.
misinterpretation. Yeah, complete
So
misinterpretation.
this wars happening between these religious grounds, there's all due to this misunderstanding. Yeah. And many dharma gurus, they started these wars because of the very narrow understanding of the different religions. But we focus on what is commonality, what is common underlying message. Develop love of God. Prasad Prabhu, you have any point?
No,
Question?
Hare Krishna. Yeah, it's not a point,
Yes.
Prabhu, but I was wondering, okay, such a logically it is been explained and in a detailed way is something really amazing, Prabhu. Okay, I have
Yeah.
not expected that we have this kind of book, first of all, okay, on Sanatana Dharma. And I'm wondering now because Prabhupada and all have read all these things, and that is the reason the purports were very strong sometimes. So
Yeah.
the underlying theme is this, okay, because the roots were very strong. Why?
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't understand, Prabhu. Like the puppets are very strong for Prabhupada in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. So now understanding these kind of literature now realize, okay. So why Prabhupada is mentioning something like that? That is the only one point I would like to mention, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Just a realization, Prabhu, for me. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Hare Krishna,
And
Prabhuji.
yeah,
Hare Krishna,
Mataji.
Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Dandavat
So
Pranam.
wonderful class, Prabhuji. प्रभुजी तो अगर सब रिलीजन एक ही बात बताते हैं कि डेवलप अ लव फॉर गॉड, then they have to respect other religion also. Otherwise, in current situation, it is very difficult because everyone is saying we are best, we are best, we are best, but they don't respect other religion. This is the main issue for current
But
situation.
even in our Hinduism, look at
Yes, Prabhuji.
different four Vaishnava, even Hinduism, even Vaishnava, the four sampradayas, they don't look eye to eye with each other. So those are the minor differences basically.
तो प्रभु जी
And
जो
they
सो कॉल्ड
and they
हिंदू
focus on the
है,
minor differences, and then they create animosity.
यस
You
प्रभु
know?
जी, पर प्रभु जी बट मुझे लगता है कि सो कॉल्ड हिंदू जो खुद को बताते हैं मगर वो स्क्रिप्चर को पढ़ते नहीं है.
अरे देखो ना ये इसमें even within ISKCON, the disciples of particular spiritual master, they engage into the kind of silly arguments with the disciples of another guru. This is really painful to even hear about these kind of things. They focus on some minor points and they forget the main point. They bypass that.
Yes, Prabhuji, it's very true.
Yeah, thank you. So there are going to be these Sampradayik differences are there, and that ought to be there. That ought to be there actually, but you don't harp on those things. So here, whole debate focused on that. This particular Devidas, son of Lahiri Mahasaya, he was so much pissed off because of the Vaishnavas treating this Qazi, but they did not look that Qazi, that Muslim, he is not there. He's now become a full-fledged Vaishnava. Even though we already saw that Qazi was explaining what is given in Quran, the basic understanding of Quran is not that dissimilar with the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Basically, exactly same thing, and that is the point. What I wanted you to focus on that. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji,
Okay,
Prabhuji, still Babaji Pranali is existing.
Babaji Pranali.
Yes.
Yeah, it is there. This particular book I followed in conducting the 6 Sandarbhas. I was following that the personality, I forgot the name actually. We use the book. He's the Babaji actually, the Vedic Institute in Vrindavan. That is run by Babaji, But they are all the followers of particularly Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's in the line of that, But Babaji is like a pranali. It's a particular way of thing. That's what they treat it like that. But basically, they worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The same chanting of the holy name is there. Mahamantra is there. Everything they are doing the same thing, So we don't harp on some minor point. Oh, they are not wearing this Vaishnava dress, this saffron dress, or they are not wearing Brahman thread. I would not pay that attention to that kind of minor things, But there's so much misunderstanding there. Okay, now let's not harp onto that. I'm going to turn over to Sharad Prabhuji, last few minutes, if you have. Sharad Prabhuji, you want to say a few words?
Thank you, Prabhuji. I have hardly anything to add. Here, the gist of what we have learned so far, we should not see the minor differences in others. We should try to see what is common. And that is very, very important. Now, in the present day world, what is happening? Everybody wants to prove that their thing, what they believe, that is correct, without also knowing what is given in their own Dharma Shastra, like in Quran or Bible, or even in Bhagavad Gita or in Bhagavatam. People don't study them properly, but still try to say, if I am in this, that is the greatest. And that is what is creating differences amongst the people. But we should not be too much perturbed on that, because that is the nature of Kali Yuga. All these differences, they are going to increase as we proceed in time ahead. Now, if somebody asks me, we have read so many shastras, we have done so much of discussion, what is the gist of that in 2-3 sentences? Then like even all others, they also say, they will also agree. there are the gist is one is chanting of the holy name. Why chanting of the holy name? Because the name is more powerful than the Supreme Lord. We are not saying who is the Supreme Lord, but it is much more powerful than the Supreme Lord. Actually, there is a story also, very nice story. I'll tell you, but that may take time. Okay, I was telling you the gist of what I have learned. One is chanting of the holy name. The second is sadhu sangha. Sadhu means pure sadhus who have understood what is the correct religion and what is the correct dharma. That is one. And then following the other principles, what the four principles which we follow in ISKCON and all that, these are the actually gist. We should understand that all these they converge to these three, four things, and we should try to follow them. And more than that, I have nothing to say. And the story I was saying, I'll tell you some time later because there is not much time. Besides that, I want to request the devotees for something like the synopsis. Synopsis only the two Matajis they are giving. I'll request the other volunteers also. They can contact me. Will train them in that, and you'll be able to give the synopsis. And once you learn the basics, it is very simple because Charu Prabhuji has already made the slides. If you just look at the slides and you take the essence from each slide, that makes the synopsis. It is very easy. There is nothing difficult in that. Then the other thing I want to remind all of you that after this Jaiva Dharma, Charu Prabhuji, he will be busy in completing his book, and he will not be available to us for these slides or other things. And at that time, we want cooperation and assistance from each and every one of you. Otherwise, it will be difficult for us to run the classes. And as I have already discussed with many of you, and all have unanimously agreed, we will be starting with the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, starting from chapter 1 to chapter 90. And that is based on the commentaries on each verse by approximately 15 acharyas, including Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and others. That will be very interesting. And part of it is going on presently. Archana Mataji is witness to that. It will be somewhat on those lines. I am very sure you will like. Then the other suggestion I have not discussed with others. I will take the suggestion from everybody. Like, as you know, inadvertently, knowingly or unknowingly, we commit Vaishnava Paradhas and Bhagavata Paradhas also. And the only way we can avoid them is by studying the life history of the saints, of the devotees of the past, what they have done and how they have reached the Supreme Lord. I want to discuss about this. We can, in this, if we go through this, then I will request each and every one of you to take on one devotee and speak about him for 1 hour, and then we discuss for about half an hour. That will be very interesting. This will give everybody a chance to speak, to prepare, and participate in our discussion, because the discussion or the participation, what we expect is little less than what we thought should be. Satya Prabhuji, you want to say something?
No, I just want to make a request, Prabhu, because you are saying about Vaishnava and Aparad and all, I was thinking maybe if time permits, situation accepts, should we do the Harinama Chintamani book, Prabhu? Because it will give so many fundamental things and clarify many things. Just wanted to make a request.
Yeah. Actually, we have gone through
Oh, okay.
what is given in the Harinam Chintamani, that has already been covered.
Understood.
I have got that book. I have also read that book, but
Okay.
we have gone beyond that also.
Oh, okay. Understood, Prabhu.
But
Thank you.
I think studying the life histories of all the saintly personalities, not only what is known in the Vaishnava tradition, but many others of the even of the present day sadhus, we won't be knowing that I know at least many of them, many large number who have seen the Supreme Lord even in this Kali Yuga, not very long back. If you hear their stories, you will be totally amazed. And these things will be greatly benefited. That is one of the suggestions. The other one is the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So these are on 2 days we can do like this. And in that, I would like to request participation by each and everybody. So with this, the time is up. Charu Prabhuji, you want to make any comments on this?
What you just said, it's from after we finished Jaiva Dharma, right? You're talking about? And
Yes, Prabhuji, yes.
and I'm effectively retiring because I will focus on my book now, afterwards. So, you still have, time, another 3 months or something like that, right?
Yes.
This August, September, October, November. So about 2 months, little over 2 months,
Yes.
So it's good now to start thinking about what you want to do, but see, I've already conducted some seminars how to prepare PowerPoints, and
Yes.
now you have to really get together and learn, because without PowerPoints, you only yourself said it's very difficult to give classes,
Yes.
and so you have to learn, every one of you, at least you form a team, just like I form a team, and work within the team cooperatively, assign duties to other teammates, and work cooperatively together. I'm sure there's nothing difficult. You can do it yourself. Okay. You have seen my PowerPoints, how I do, and how, but most important point you notice, you have to grasp the understanding of a given chapter. That is the most difficult part. You look at my PowerPoints and read the chapter, you will see, if you read the chapter, it will be very difficult to follow, understand. So you have to really grasp the main point of what the book is saying, and then you start sitting down and prepare the PowerPoints. But if you don't know how to condense the gist, most important points in a given chapter, you will not be able to write PowerPoints. You'll not be able to prepare that, and it takes a lot of time. Uh, okay, I think your time is up. So I'm going to request Saga Prabhu to conclude the class. Haribol.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obsession. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Namaste Narasimhai. Namaste Narasimhai. Prahlada Dahini. Prahlada Dahini. Hiranyakasi Purvachahar. Hiranyakasi Purvachahar. Shilatankar Nathale, Shilatankar Nathale. Ito Narsingha, Parato Narsingha, Ito Narsingha, Parato Narsingha. Ito Yami, Ito Narsingha, Ito Yami, Ito Narsingha. By Narsingha, Hriday Narsingha, by Narsimha, Hridayi Narsimha, Narasimhamadin Saranam Prapade, Narasimhamadin Saranam Prapade, Tavakala Kamala Bhare, Nakadbhuta Singham, Dharita Hiranyakashipur Tanu Bringam, Kesavathita Narahari Rupa, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Tavakala Kamala Bhare, Nakadbhuta Singham, Dharita Hiranyakashipur Tanu Bringam, Kesavadhita Narhari Rupa, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare. नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय, भक्त प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, शिला प्रपात की जय, चारू प्रभु की जय, शरद प्रभु की जय, गुरुदेव की जय, ऑल assembled devotee की जय। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण चारू प्रभु, दंडवत
Hare
प्रणाम।
Krishna. Thank you, Sagar Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Prabhupada. All glory to Shri Prabhupada, all glory to Srimad Bhagavatam, all glory to the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, all glory to all the Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna. So I look forward to see you next weekend. And you until then, I wish you all the wonderful week ahead. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Next weekend, I probably will be in Washington or Baltimore to see our Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, okay.
I hope to see you too, Prabhuji.
Yeah, my wife is visiting London, going to London for 1 month, so we'll have to see